Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Welcome to our final session of the APPA, SRAPPA, and TNAPPA annual conference. As you know my name, Chuck Scott, I am proud to serve as your president of APPA International for this year. It's an exciting time for me, and I appreciate all the input and feedback that you've given me so far. I look forward to spending more time, quality time, with you throughout the year. I hope you enjoyed this morning's breakout sessions. I trust everybody had a great time at the reception last night and the banquet as well. Congratulations again to all of our APPA award winners. I just had the opportunity to meet with Jim Melton, our speaker for today, and I learned that he got here yesterday afternoon and he was able to have dinner with us last night and enjoy some of the festivities. And Jim told me that how impressed he is with the people that he ate with, he sat with, that he's conversed with throughout the last few hours together, and he was genuinely sincere about how this association and how its membership treat and welcome others. So I'm proud of everybody here, and thanks for sharing that with us, Jim. The title of our session this morning is Changing Our View. And as I say, our presenter's name is Jim Melton. Jim inspires people to unlock their potential and move into action. He's known best for his leadership and futurist topics, and he rose to prominence through his best-selling books and public television series, which is entitled Reaching New Heights of Excellence. His video-based training system is called the Melton Leadership System, and it's utilized internationally. With a Ph.D. in management, he transforms complex issues into simple, common-sense terms for practical application. Jim's rich and varied background have provided him with an educated blend of experience that he has shared with many of the top 500 companies worldwide. So if you would, let's please give Jim a warm APPA welcome.
Thank you, Chuck. Thank you very much for that. And good morning. Good morning. It's great to see your bright and sparky faces here in Nashville. In light of what's been going on, and with all due respect to the incidents we've had around the world, and especially in Dallas and St. Paul and Baton Rouge, I am very comforted to see your presence here this morning. It's been a challenge, and thank you for participating. And last night was extraordinary, as Chuck mentioned, absolutely extraordinary. You talk about excellence, you don't just talk about it, you live it. It was delicious. How many were there last night to the excellent program and the awards? It's no easy task to pull a conference like this together. It takes a lot of people. And the person that was pivotal in bringing me here and providing insights and ideas and tending to the various details is just another example of your commitment to excellence with APPA. So I'm going to ask a favor of you, if you would please. If you would please help me give a warm and appreciative and a well-deserved round of applause to Suzanne Healy. I don't know where she is. We're going to be talking about the basically what we're talking about today is ethics and respect. And Chuck, last night I couldn't have been more pleased to hear you present these ideas with your example. I even wrote it down here so I'd get it word for word. In your youth as an Eagle Scout, you said, "It has shaped me into what I have become as an adult." So where does it begin? Well, in a little story, if I might tell you about my friend Ron, he went to the bank with his son Jason. He was going to cash a check. And they got to the bank and he said, "Jason, wait here, I'll be right out." So Ron walked up and went to the teller and exchanged the check for the money, and he counted it. And when he walked back to the door, he stopped halfway between the door and the teller, and he counted the money again. And then he walked outside, and Jason looked up at him and he said, "Dad, what's wrong?" He said, "Son, we have a real problem. The teller has given me $100 more than she should have. Should we or should we not tell your mother?" So, where in fact does it all begin? How do we build this base of ethics and respect? If you'll join me for a moment, I'll give you an example. Everyone raise your arm and wave your hand once before your body. You've just altered the future. You see, the future responds to your command, physically and mentally. When you move your hand, the universe moves. It's called the ripple effect. It's subtle, but it's inevitable. And when you move your mind, you're talking major change and massive ripple. The problem is, in today's world, most people don't move their minds very far. Albert Schweitzer was once asked, "What's wrong with people today?" He said, "Well, people just don't think." That's certainly not the case here today, but I would invite you to expand your thinking. And it sounds like a pretty bold statement to say, especially to a group like this, but we're going to be talking about your future. Now, when you know the future, it's not too difficult to figure out what to do in the present moment. We've all experienced it. It's called hindsight. But think about it. Reverse it. Put it on its heels. When you know the present moment, where you are, how you feel, how your relationships are, what your financial situation is, it's not too difficult to predict the future. And we all have one. We have a probable future, and we have an improbable future. Now, the probable future is when I finish this talk today, we'll all rise from our chairs and we'll go to our respective locations. The improbable future is when I finish the talk, we'll rise from our chairs, we'll go to the airport, we'll board a flight to Europe, and we'll spend the next 30 days in the French Riviera. Yeah. Sounds like a good idea to me. You have to admit that both probabilities exist. Now, the question I'm asking you, and I would pose very clearly, is what does your probable future hold for you 20 years from now? Where will you be in the year 2037, 2038, 39? What new inroads will have taken place in the human experience? Will you have embraced the new technologies? Imagine the possibilities that await you. An explosion of information is bringing us into the future, some of us kicking and screaming. Now, we can be pushed, we can be led, or we can step forward with confidence. The choices we make will influence our journey. So how do we do this? Well, let me take a survey here. How many people here would like to have just a little bit more fun in life? Just a little bit more. Okay, about half of you. Okay. How many would like a little more money in their lives? Good, I got the other half. That was easy. How many would like a little more love in their lives? Anybody at all? Guys got two hands up back there. All right, we say we want more love, we want more enthusiasm, we want more of what the, quote, good life has to offer, and yet for some reason or other, we're not willing to make the mental and physical changes necessary to bring about the changes. Now, that's what Webster, in his best-selling book, The Dictionary, calls stupid. Yeah, I mean, you can't even have change unless you're willing to make the shift. And the shift I'm talking about is simple. It's from wanting to having, from thinking about to doing, from dreaming to experiencing. And we as individuals don't have to go that much further to be number one, just a little bit of a shift. So what can we do today to positively impact tomorrow and beyond tomorrow? It's simple. We have to know where we are today, and we can act then through foresight as opposed to reacting to hindsight. If you ask yourself 5 questions, and you can answer these questions silently. Number 1, how is my business? Do I love it? Do I enjoy it? Do I love the holidays, all 365 of them? Number 2, how are my relationships? Do I get along well with people? Do people get along well with me? Am I fun to be around? Studies tell us that 1 out of every 3 people in our society need some kind of psychological help in their business, their marital relations, or their financial situations. 1 out of every 3. Those are pretty high odds. Take a look at the person sitting on your left. Just look at them. All right, now look at the person sitting on your right. Okay, if they look okay, it's you I'm talking to. We all know he's got a problem, but I don't have any. We all know she's in trouble, but I don't have any. So, what can we do? Let me cover only 5 areas of influence that will make our path a lot easier to get there. All right. 1, communicate clearly. It was my friend George Shapiro, who worked at the University of Minnesota. He was a professor of speech and communication. And he and his class did a study over a period of a semester on communication. And he said communication is simply a two-way exchange of information which is intended to produce a desired response. And they discovered that in a communication, in a conversation, basically, only 7% of what is said is heard through words. Now, if 7% is heard through words, you mathematicians know that 93% is not heard through words. 38% is heard through the intonation, the tone, the feeling, the emotion behind the words, and 55% of who I am today comes to you live through body signals. How are we communicating with people? I had the privilege of sharing the platform a while back with Lee Iacocca, and he mentioned this in his talk, and I remember what people say in their talks, Chuck. He said, there's one thing I hate to see on any individual's evaluation, no matter how talented the guy is, and that's the line, he has trouble getting along with people. He said, to me, that's the kiss of death. You've just destroyed the guy, because that's all we've got around here, he said. No dogs, no apes, just people. And if he can't get along with his peers, what good is he to the company? And I thought to myself, yes, the art of communication, the art of getting along with people is a challenge to many of us. I think that if I had anything to say about this at all, it would include attitude being a very strong element in communicating clearly. I mean, how did you get up this morning? After last night, you probably got up pretty bright and shiny, and that's kind of nice. But some people get up in the morning and they say, good morning, God. Others get up and say, good God, this is morning. How did you get up? Test me on these ideas. When you get on the flight to go home later on today or tomorrow, walk by the flight crew. Test me on this. Walk by the flight crew and say, hi, guys, how are you doing? How would you feel if they said, geez, are we tired? You want to get out of there because you want to fly with positive people. You want to rub elbows with enthusiasm. The captain gets on the intercom and says, okay, folks, we're going to try to get this thing off the ground. You don't want to be around there. Not at all. Attitude is a clear indication of where we're coming from. Now, I brought an article along here because, unfortunately, we tend to form our attitudes a lot by what we read. And this article is headlined, Feeling Sluggish Lately. Don't blame it on the flu. It says the real thing won't be in town until next month. Then it says, sometime within the next 30 days, the Russian and Texas strains of the flu bug are expected to move into the state and cause a high rate of absenteeism in schools and businesses. Not only are they telling you what you're going to get, they're telling you what you're going to do with it once you get it. You're going to take off of work. You know what the problem is? Over 65% of the people who read this article are going to come down with the flu because they don't understand that just because someone sneezes in your face, you don't have to catch a cold. Just because you walk outside with wet feet and it's cold out there, you don't have to catch a cold. My dogs do it all the time. We were born at a very early age, folks, and we were taught when we were empty-headed and open-minded that we will receive extra toys, extra attention, and extra affection when we don't feel well. And boy, do we pull that out of people. I called my friend Joe back in Milwaukee, and I said, Joe, this is Jim in Palm Springs. He said, Jim, am I glad you called? Have I got a cold? And I said, Joe, try to imagine how little I care. Now, he said, what? You don't care how I feel? I said, well, not really. He said, well, why not? I said, why should I? Get his answer. He said, we started high school together. We started the University of Wisconsin together. Jim, we started working together. Okay, Joe, I said, I care a little bit. What's wrong? He said, I got a raspiness in my throat. He said, tomorrow it'll be in my chest. He said, Monday I'm going to have a cough. He said, I'll probably have to take Tuesday off of work. I said, Joe, this is only Friday. You're already taking Tuesday off. Why did you expect it not to happen? He said, it always happens. Do you think he's expecting something? Why do some people get the 7-day cold? Some people get the 3-day cold. Others get the 24-hour bug. And some people don't get it at all. Literally. Look at the work they're doing at National Jewish Hospital back in Denver. They say there are allergies and allergens floating around all the time. Do you know what hooks them up? Stress. But you can't take the stress out of the air and put it in your ulcer. You can't take the anxiety out of the air and put it in your mind. You can't take the love out of the world and put it in your marriage, and you can't take the success out of somebody else and put it in you. You've got to create it with your beautiful minds. And right where you sit today, you are designing the rest of your day and your lives by the thoughts you are holding in your mind. Have you read the study on expectancies, where they took a large group of children and they gave them the Stanford Binet IQ test? And those with high IQs, they listed the IQ and they said, this is your IQ, this is what to expect. Those with average IQs, this is what to expect, and those with low IQs, likewise. And then they took another group of children, gave them the same test, but instead of listing their IQ in the IQ column, they listed their locker numbers. And those children with high locker numbers, they said, this is your IQ, and this is what to expect. Those with average locker numbers, likewise, and those with the low locker numbers. 1 year passed, and just what you would expect. Those people with high IQs were high achievers. Those with average IQs were average in their work, and those with low IQs were underachievers. But those children with high locker numbers were high achievers. Those with average locker numbers were average in their work, and those with low locker numbers were failing in significantly high proportions. It says to me that if you expect to be a dummy, you'll be dummy, and you'll function in dumbness all your life. Expectancy plays a critical role in how we perceive the world and the world perceives us. I was giving a program in Atlanta. There was a guy sitting right in the front row, right about where you are. And I went up to this guy. And I said, are you fabulous? Are you outstanding? Are you enthusiastic? Yes, well, he didn't say that. he said, I guess I'm about average. Thank you very much, by the way. How many people here would like to be average? All right, we've got unanimous agreement. How many people here would like to have their businesses be, their health be, their love lives be, their financial situation be absolutely outstanding? All right, well, you know and I know that in order to be outstanding, we have to stand out. So what can set us apart? I'm going to share with you a technique. It's called the SIP principle, S-I-P. But I need a volunteer. Just one. To be right here. Come on. There you go. Let's give this person a round of applause. There you go. What's your name? Richie? Come on up here, Richie. All right, come on over here. How many people know Richie?
I know Richie.
There you go. How many would like to know Richie? There you go. Got some friends back there. Okay, I'm not going to put you on the spot at all. I'm just going to talk a little bit, and then I'm going to ask you one question, Richie, and the answer you give me will be whether you live or die. So, let's say that you received a telephone call today, right after this program, from your very best friend. You've known this person all of your life. You've gone to school with this person. You've shared lunch with them. You work with them, and they called you up and said, Richie, I've been thinking about you for the last couple of days, and I felt compelled to call you. I don't want to borrow any money. I don't want to ask any favors. I just want to let you know that you are a very important person in my life, and you motivate me to do my very best. And I know you always do your very best. You're a compliment to your job. You're an asset to your community. I'm getting to like him already. I don't want to take a lot of your time because I know you're a busy person, but I want to ask you a question. Because for some reason or other, whenever I'm with you, I always feel good about myself. How would you feel?
Pleased.
Let's give him a hand.
Very pleased.
You live. The guy lives. Let me give you a book. Enjoy that book. It's great. I read it myself. Oh, all right. Thanks for coming up here. Let's give him another round of applause. Okay. If you got that call, how would you feel? Good. One guy said like they got the wrong number. No, you'd feel fine, super fine. You'd be on cloud nine. If you were a doctor and you just received that telephone call, you suppose you'd walk back into the hospital and be a better doctor? If you were a teacher and you walked right back into the classroom, wouldn't you take a little more time with those little kids? Sure you would. If you were an accountant, if you were a facilities manager, if you were an artist, wouldn't you be a little more in tune with the world around you? Yes, you probably would. But in light of the previous conversation, what more would you know about being a doctor, a teacher, a facilities manager? What would you know? A trustee? Probably nothing. You see, we're talking about laws and principles here, like the law of gravity. When I step off the top of a building, I go down, not up. When I jump out of an airplane and I pull the ripcord and the chute doesn't open, he's got a problem. And when I misuse the law, I lose. And whenever I try to get without giving, I lose. The SIP principle is simple. S-I equals P. Self-image equals performance. Whenever you, it's self-image now, whenever you raise the opinion you have of yourself, you raise the level of your performance. Whenever you lower the opinion you have of yourself, you lower the level of your performance. And it all operates by law. And there's not that much allowance for ignorance. We've got to know what we have inside, and we've got to know how to get it out. There are many ways to reach an end, ladies and gentlemen. Some are better than others. They're all different. Let's move to the next area. It's called listening. Now, we only listen. You talked about listening today and last night. I was listening to you. I'm going to use some of your stuff in my talks. I'll have to get approval, but it's not copyrighted. Okay. We only we only hear with our ears, but we listen with our minds. Are we good listeners? What are we actually hearing? It's hard to put this into words, but a lot of people do a lot of talking, but they don't do a lot of listening. I was in Las Vegas a while back at McCarran Airport, getting ready to fly back to Palm Springs, and there was a guy sitting next to me, and a very fine, stately-looking woman sitting next to him. And he was talking and talking and talking. And she was very patiently listening. And he kept talking and talking and talking. And she said 3 magic words. Tell me more. So he did. Kept talking and talking and talking. And at the end of 8 minutes, I lost track of the word I he used after 58. And she used the word I only twice. She was asking him questions. How much money did you win in Vegas? What shows did you see? Where are you traveling to? Tell me about your children. What kind of business are you in? And then he had the audacity, when the flight was called, to walk up to the flight attendant and say to her, I just met the most interesting conversationalist. When he was doing all of the talking. We have to be 100% present. And that's tough to do sometimes. Let me ask you a question. Do you know when you have someone's attention? Sure you do. Do you know when you don't? Do you think it works the other way around? Of course it does. My friend Cavett Robert was very perceptive. He said, when someone asks you about your children, what are they waiting for you to ask them about their children? When someone asks you about your business or what you do for a living, what are they waiting to share with you? When someone asks you, are you going on vacation this summer? What do they want to ask? Have you asked them? Are they going on vacation? He said, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Are we listening? I hope we are. Number 3 of the 5. Are we good observers of the world around us? Now, if we only hear with our ears, but we listen with our minds, I am absolutely convinced that we only see with our eyes, but we observe with our senses. And you can take issue with that if you want, but sometimes how we greet people and what happens in our observation is a little weak. So, observation is absolutely critical. You meet sometimes people on the street. I was, where was it? It was in Denver. It was in Denver. Dana and I lived in Denver. Dana's my wife. She's not here today, but she's the woman who makes my life the spectacular adventure that it is. I guarantee you, if she were here today and you met her, you'd fall in love with her too. And we lived there for 11 years. And I was out for my morning jog. And I was just running around. Are you familiar with Denver at all and the Cherry Creek area? Anybody familiar with that? All right, it's about 6 or 6:30 in the morning. And here comes this huge bruiser coming toward me. Had a maroon T-shirt on. Now, he was about 6'2", 6'3", must have weighed 250, 300 pounds, big guy. Barreling down the street at about 200 miles an hour. You know, it was really a pretty good clip. And I was moving along at a pretty good pace myself, and we were on a collision course. So I figured one of us better step aside. So I did. I'm not going to confront him. And we got about a little closer than we are right here. I could actually see the whites in his eyes. And I looked at him, and I smiled, and I said, good morning. And his eyes turned away from me. He picked up his pace double time. He sped on by me. I could feel the breeze as he walked on by, and I said to myself, that's sad. We all live on the same planet. We all eat the same foods. We breathe the same air. We have the same goals, the same needs, the same aspirations. And yet, for some reason or other, we can't look one another in the eyes and smile. Well, the very next day, on the very same street, very same time, here comes the same guy, same maroon T-shirt on. I was about a block away, but I knew it was him. I was downwind. I mean, there was no missing this guy. We got about the same distance away, and I said to myself, as every single person in this room has at one time or another, I said, okay, Jim, now's the time to take a risk. So I looked him in the eyes and I smiled and I said, good morning. And he stopped dead in his tracks, scared the screaming bejeebers out of me. He pointed down at me and he said, do I know you? I said, yes, we met yesterday. Oh, come on, you laugh. But it's happened to all of us. You've been in the restaurant for 15 minutes and you still don't have your menu or your water, and you get a little miffed and say, come on over here. I'm an important person. I've got places to go, things to do, people to see. Can't you hurry it up just a little bit? Or you're in the bank on a Friday afternoon, or outside of the bank, the line is so long, maybe Ron's up there trying to make cash or whatever it is. Anyway, finally you get up there and you get a little miffed and say, come on, hurry up, I've got to get out of here. And you're a little little bit abusive. So the next morning, you walk into this building, and you see a person right there that was abusive to you, that was curt, that was a little short. It's the same person. How long do you think you're going to want to stick around if they walk into your facility, if they walk into your travel agency, if they walk into your insurance company? How long do you think you're going to be there? You're going to turn right around. You came today. There's a message in this. Put your hand high over your head. Put it up there. Now reach over and pat someone on the back. You deserve to be congratulated. You came to the program today. This is the last session. You're different. I'm not calling you weird. I'm just calling you, you're different. You're different. Okay? The lesson is simply this. We need to learn to extend the same courtesies to perfect strangers as we would to those we love. But some people in this room have to do the exact opposite. To extend the same courtesies to those they love as they would to perfect strangers. Now, we can tell a lot about people. There are signals hidden in plain sight. I mean, you meet somebody on the street sometime and immediately, right away, without even thinking, you just know that you hate them or you love them, or whatever it is. You can tell about people. I mean, if you're at an unpleasant event, let's say you're at a funeral and there's a guy in the casket and he's dead. You never met the guy. You don't know who he is. But what are you doing at the funeral anyway? I mean, but anyway, so there he is. So how would you get to know what this guy was like? This is called audience response. How would you get to know? Yeah, right, exactly. You get to know his friends. Say, by the way, the number of people who will attend your funeral will largely be determined by the weather. So you want to schedule that date very carefully. Say, corporate executives don't hang out with bums. Students on the honor roll don't hang out with school dropouts. Top producers don't hang out with coffee clutchers. We tend to draw into our circle of friends those people who think like we do. I'm pleased as I'll get out when I draw into my circle of friends those people who think, because most people don't. Ken McFarland, the late great American educator, said, if most people said what they were thinking, they'd be speechless. He said only 2% of the people think. 3% of the people think they think, and 95% of the people would rather die than think. So, we need to elevate our senses and be aware of the silent signals that are hidden in plain sight. We need to do that. Number 4 is speak confidently. Speak confidently. Say what you want, not what you don't want. Focus on the solution, not on the problem. When someone comes into my office, I always recommend in my programs, if they come into the manager's office, have an open door policy, and they come in with a problem, tell them to bring at least 2 solutions with them. Why not? Einstein put it this way. He said, the difference between the right word and the wrong word is like the difference between a lightning bug and a lightning bolt. So that's where I coined the phrase word magic. People say things that they don't really mean to say. Another article called Cracking Up. It's on how people tried to explain their automobile accidents in 30 words or less. Here they are. The guy was all over the road. I had to swerve a number of times before I hit him. Was he aiming? The telephone pole was approaching fast. I was attempting to swerve out of its path when it struck my front end. I pulled away from the side of the road and glanced at my mother-in-law and headed over the embankment. The pedestrian had no idea which way to go, so I ran over him. I was on my way to the doctor with rear end trouble when my universal joint gave way, causing me to have an accident. Not at all what they wanted to say, but it is what was recorded in the listeners' minds. And I want to ask you, what messages are being recorded in your listeners' minds when you walk through their doors? What are you saying? How are you saying it? If 7% is heard through words, 38% through the intonation in words, and 55% through body signals, what are you saying? I mean, if I were to say something to a gal, j'ai envie de manger de la glace. What did I convey to this woman? J'ai envie de manger de la glace. What did I convey? Huh? Charming. No, I said I feel like eating some ice cream. See, words are only expressions of how you feel. In themselves, they don't mean a lot. It's the way we communicate with those words. And Emerson put it this way. He said, "What you are speaks so loudly, I can't hear what you're saying." Last night was a loud message to me of the unity that you have in APPA. I was rather impressed. And Chuck, you're a lot more pro-education than I actually thought. I think this is wonderful that you have that network going within and through your organization. It's beautiful. We learn from everything, and opportunities are everywhere. I want to ask you a question here. Does anyone know anyone at all who failed kindergarten? Okay, it's not easy to fail kindergarten, you know. You got to work at it. And I went to 36th Street Elementary School in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And Mrs. Werfel was my kindergarten teacher. And she was a tall gal. And I was short, but she was tall and had a long dress on. She always wore long dresses, kind of swished. I know because I was lying on the blanket, sleeping, you know, and we took the rest periods. And she had these clunky black heels, and she had a bun on the back of her head. And we were making paper boxes one day at this huge wooden table with this large jar of white paste. You know, the kind you like to eat. It's kind of a minty taste. Well, I was putting more in my tongue than I was in my paper box, and Mrs. Werfel came over and picked up one of the boxes, and she held it high over her head, and she said, "Children, this is not the way to make a paper box," and she threw it on the table. The kid was devastated. His face was red as a beet. I felt sorry for him. His eyes were welling up. You knew he was embarrassed. And as she was holding my box high in the air, it was my box, all right. I didn't spend but 2 weeks in school after that. I got mumps, whooping cough, measles, bronchitis, pneumonia, strep throat, anything, so I didn't have to go back to school and be embarrassed again. And I failed kindergarten. I watched all the kids walk on to first grade. I had to take special reading classes all through elementary school because I was taught that I was a slow reader, and I bought it. I took special reading classes all during high school. And in my 12th grade English class, Mrs. Ingram said something to me that I was again embarrassed with. I was especially embarrassed because there were only 5 people in the room. Polly Jens was one of them, and I had a crush on Polly. Never asked her out. She was standing back there with Jack Cuskey and Wally Henderson. I can remember it to this day. And Mrs. Ingram was facing me and them, and she said, "Jim, don't ever attempt college. You'll never make it." That hurt. They didn't have a word for dyslexia then. But I learned 2 lessons from those experiences that I had in school. Number 1, never allow someone else's opinion of you to become more important than your own opinion of yourself. And number 2, whenever you're self-assured, you don't pull out garbage from other people. Whenever you feel right out inside, you don't create static in the world around you. And whenever you know who you are, you present an image that is more confident, and you get responded to accordingly. So the way we feel has a lot to do, and the way we speak has a lot to do with the response we get in life. It was my friend, again, Cabot Robert. I quote him a lot. Cabot is the former chairman emeritus of the National Speakers Association. He was 88 years of age, still traveling around this planet with this positive message of enthusiasm. And he said, character is the ability to follow through on a good resolution long after the mood in which you made it has left you. I'll say that once more. Character is the ability to follow through on a good resolution long after the mood in which you made it has left you. I think if I can attribute anything to my career and the world that I live in today, it probably has a lot to do with tenacity, with persistence. Education certainly didn't hurt anything. But it can be taken away so quickly. I'm thinking, my mind's going 1,000 different places right now. How many belong to the club? The Open Heart Surgery Club. Anybody? Couple people. You know what I'm talking about. One day you're there, and then next day you're not. And when the doctor he said when he was holding my heart in his hand, and I was on artificial life support for almost 5 hours, you know how quickly that can go. It's not easy. It's not easy. I think it was Francis Bacon who put it this way. He said, begin doing what you want to do now. We are not living in eternity. We have only this moment, sparkling like a star in our hand and melting like a snowflake. So let me move to the last point. We talked about communication. We talked about listening. We talked about observing, being good observers. We talked about speaking confidently. These are all elements to elevate our senses of awareness. Because leaders, I believe, as you are, leaders need to lead by example. And people will, in fact, follow your example. And in order to lead by example, you need to look at people and know a little bit more about them than they may think you do. By reading into them, by listening clearly, by observing sensitively, by speaking confidently, and lastly, by expressing a little bit of enthusiasm. Not a lot, just a little bit. It can be quiet enthusiasm. Not a problem. Quiet enthusiasm is good. I feel that sometimes when you walk down the street and you see someone you know, hi, how are you doing? And they say, oh, I'm fine. We want to be a little more than fine. Now, you don't have to be a screaming Mimi on being enthusiastic, but I'm saying express a little bit more and ask for what you want in life. Let me give you an example of this. Dana and I were getting a tour of Portland, Oregon. You familiar with Portland, Oregon? Anybody been back there? It's a city of bridges, right? And this woman, Ruth, redhead, was taking us on a tour of Portland. It's a lovely city. And we were going over the bridge, under the bridge, over the bridge, under the bridge, over the bridge, under the bridge. We were on a one-way bridge. And she was going the wrong way. We were on the off-ramp, off the on-ramp, on the... She said, no, I can get going that way. And she lived there. Well, anyway, finally we got around 9th and Yamhill in the downtown area. And the Guild Theater was there. And The Day the Earth Stood Still was playing at this Guild Theater. It's a classic film. How many have seen The Day the Earth Stood Still? 1951, the original version with Michael Rennie, Patricia Neal, and Gort. All right, Dana had not seen the movie. I said, you've got to see the movie. It's classic. So we got back to the hotel. We were staying at Lloyd Center at the Red Lion Inn. And I called the theater up, and I said, what time does the movie start? They said it starts at 6:15. Well, it was 5:45. So I called the bellman up downstairs. I said, can you have a cab here in 5 minutes? He said, sure, no problem. So we got downstairs at 10 minutes to 6. There was no cab. 5 minutes to 6, no cab. 6 o'clock, no cab. 5 after 6, I was getting a little concerned because you know the flying saucer lands in the beginning of the movie. You've got to see the beginning. Well, just then this Bentley automobile pulled up in front, chocolate brown in color. It was gorgeous. The chauffeur got out, and he walked around, and he opened the door for these two lovely couples. The women were literally dripping in elegant, flowing garments, and they walked into the hotel like this. You know how they walk. And I said to Dana, come on, there's our cab. The bellman heard me. He ran up to me. He grabbed my arm. He said, wait a minute, sir, that's not your cab. He said, your cab is yellow. And I said to myself, why can't we go downtown in the cab? Why can't we use the Bentley? Why does everyone always try to tell us what we can't have in life? So I went outside and I talked to the driver. His name was Mike. I asked him. I said, hey, Mike, we're going to see a science fiction movie at the Gill Theater. It starts in 5 minutes. We just have to see the beginning. Would you drive us down there? He said, sure, why not? So we got in the car, we drove down to the Gill Theater, and he stopped right in front of the box office. There were 10 people in line. I counted them. And he turned around, he said, we're here. I said, I know. He said, well, aren't you going to get out? You're going to miss your movie. I said, well, aren't you going to open our door for us? I mean, after all, we are riding in a Bentley. He laughed. He said, okay, I'll play your silly game. So he got up. He opened the door, and this lovely couple emerged. We said goodbye, bid each other adieu after I tipped him handsomely and bid him adieu and sped off into the night. We got in line. We got our tickets. We saw the movie. When the movie was over, we walked outside of the theater, and there was the Bentley. He said, your car, sir. He picked us up from there. He drove us over to McCormick and Schmick on First and Oak. We had a delightful seafood dinner. He picked us up from the restaurant. He drove us back to the hotel. The bellman was still standing there, looking out the window. He shook his head, and he walked away. What I didn't know, and what the bellman didn't know because he was new on the job, and what none of you know, is that anyone could have had a ride in the Bentley. All they had to do was ask. It was a courtesy car for McCormick and Schmick Restaurant. You see, folks, this is a mouth. And if you want anything in life at all to happen, you've got to be willing to open it up just a little bit. Ask for what you want and share a little bit of enthusiasm with it. I want to leave you, if I might, with a little poem and a wish. The poem I first heard from a psychiatrist. I wasn't going to him, but he was a speaker and he did a great job. And it's called The Blinking Flapper. And see if you can find the 5 core elements of what I've been talking about within this poem. They're all there. And the poem is simple. It goes like this. It was midnight on the Hudson. The whole of the fleet was there. And high in the drive apartments, a flapper was in despair. She couldn't go out. Her mother had locked her in her room. And so she stared at the ships below her with eyes that were full of gloom. The flash of a blinking signal from battleships dark and grim brought thoughts of a sailor sweetheart. She had learned the Morse code from him. So she picked up her father's flashlight and sent out an SOS, and the lonely gob on a signal bridge blinked back. Are you in distress? I'm a poor little locked-in flapper, the girl with a flashlight winked. Me too, said the lonely sailor, as he blinkety-blink-blink-blinked. In every port you've a sweetheart, said the flapper who now got flipped. And you girls, flashed the god back quickly, have sweethearts on every ship. They spoke like this for an hour, of hurricanes, love, and gin, of seasickness, fudge, spumoni, and automobiles of tin. May I come around to see you? Tomorrow's my day on shore. I live in the drive, she answered, 984. Good night, sailor boy, she signaled. Good night, went the sailor's light, and every ship in the fleet flashed back. We'll be there, little girl. Good night. It says some people are looking for one thing and other people are looking for something else. But I want to guarantee you something before you walk out of those portals today. What you are looking for is looking for you. Whatever your goals, your dreams, your aspirations are, it's out there looking for you. Open your eyes, open your mouth, and ask for them. And the wish I would wish for you would be one of two things. I wish for you that you realize from this moment on today, you have a choice in designing your future by your attitude, the way you communicate, how well you listen, the way you observe, how confidently you speak, and just shine a little of that enthusiasm through you. You have the choice to design a future that's better than it is now, prospectively. Or, I wish for you that you are always blessed with high locker numbers. Because you're going to need them. I thank you so much for your kind attention. You have been a delight to be with. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jim. I hope everybody was listening as intently as Jim had suggested, and had our minds open, and we were observing through it with our senses, because the content that he delivered was something we can all apply in our everyday lives. For those of you that would like to connect personally with Jim, he's at a table over here, has books available for sale. But if you want to talk with him individually, just leave your business card and write yes on the back of it, and he'll be glad to get back with you. His book's entitled Leadership Above and Beyond the Crowd. Hasn't this been an amazing week? I wanted to let you all know that the couple of the videos of the general sessions are already online at appa.org. There's a YouTube corner on our website. And so the remaining content of the conference proceedings that we have available will be online then sometime next week. So, as we all begin to prepare to travel home, I have the honor of sharing with you where we're heading for APPA 2017 as we partner with APPA next year at our annual meeting. So grab your coat, grab a handful of glitter, and enter the land of fog and fabulousness as we plan to meet July 22nd through the 24th in San Francisco, California. APPA 2017 will be held at the Hilton San Francisco Hotel. So let's take a look at a short video that will have some of the highlights of things you'll be able to see and do while you're in San Francisco. Now, I've never personally myself been to San Francisco, so I look forward to that and spending some time with our APPA hosts. So, I also want to thank Jim Melton again for his inspiring presentation this morning. So thank you, Jim. And let's give one final round of appreciation to all APPA staff for all of the work that they've done in putting this together. Together with the Professional Development Committee and the Host Committee, you guys knocked it out of the park. So thank you so very much. Appreciate it. So let's continue to engage. Let's continue to share and transform our campuses to even greater learning environments than what they already are. Thank you, everybody, for being here. And I look forward to seeing you in San Francisco and wish everyone safe travels, y'all. Thank you much.